All right, so Ukrainian President Zelenskyy warning of a dangerous artificial intelligence war driven as AI war driven by calls for global rules on an AI military.
We are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence. We need global rules now for how AI can be used in weapons, and this is just as urgent as preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. We need to restore international cooperation, real working cooperation for peace and for security. A few years from now might already be too late.
So the President Zelenskyy went on to say they are making drones that will be allowed to operate without human involvement, attacking pre-designated targets. Scary. NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte rejoins us now. Do you share that worry about and the need for rules when it comes to drones and AI?
Brian, good morning. I think President Zelenskyy made a good point there. By the way, it is Ukrainians who are really pushing the envelope. They are extremely good when it comes to drone technology, and the Russians always try to catch up. Need about 2, 3, 4 weeks to copy what the Ukrainians are doing. So I really commend them, and it is an important reason why the Ukrainians are at the moment so successful and still holding their lines on the battlefield.
What changed the president's view on the realities of the war on the ground? What did he see? I see that some of their officials came out and say the president listens. We're trying to tell him that the Russians are not winning this war. What happened?
Well, I'm not sure that the president changed his mind. I think the president has been very consistent since February, when he broke the deadlock, starting the talks with President Putin. But clearly, Putin is not willing to play ball. And we saw yesterday when President Trump, or the day before yesterday, when President Trump spoke about the paper tiger. And the whole day yesterday, we had the Kremlin saying, no, we are not a paper tiger, we are a bear. Well, you know, if you are a bear, you don't have to announce yourself to be a bear, because everybody will notice. So this shows a lot of weakness from the side on the Russian side. And clearly, the president hit a nerve here. But on a more serious note, what it shows you is that the Russians are not that competent, and the president sees that, but at the same time they are willing to sacrifice 1 million people so far, Brian, dead or seriously wounded, only to get a few square kilometers, square miles of Ukraine. So I think what the president is doing here is putting a lot of pressure again on the Russians. Get serious, get to the negotiating table, and he is willing to keep Ukraine supplying with American weapons paid for by allies. And I think that's great news.
So I want you to hear what the president said a couple of days ago when asked about the Russians' persistent violation of NATO nations' airspace. Listen to the question and answer.
Do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Do you think he's right? Because Germany pushed back and said, well, we don't think we'll do that. Should they be prepared to knock down Russian drones and planes?
If so necessary. So I totally agree here with President Trump, if so necessary. But our military, Brian, have trained and prepared for this. We know how to do this for over 40, 50 years. The Soviet era, and then since the Soviet era with the Russians, we have these incursions. So that means that the fighter pilots and the military will constantly assess the threats and whether it is necessary to escort these planes out of Allied territory, the minimum. But if so necessary, and there the president is totally right, we will also do more, and if necessary, the ultimate, to protect our people.
Inside that country, you mentioned 1 million casualties. Inflation is rising. The oil revenues are dropping. The bombings on their refineries and oil facilities are having a real effect. Gas lines inside that country. That might be some of the things that the president's seeing. Here's what the Kremlin said. They pushed back.
Russia is not a tiger. It is a bear. And there was no such thing as a paper bear. So Russia is a real bear.
but two NATO nations are not helpful. They continue to buy Russian oil at a 70% discount, Slovakia and Hungary. What are we doing to rein them in?
Well, first on that comment by the Kremlin,
Yeah.
as I said before, I mean, if you are not a paper tiger, but you are a bear, then you don't have to announce that fact. Everybody will see it. So it shows weakness, and you are totally right. If I was President Putin and I was, as he is, so interested in the history of my country, I would not be in a good place today. You have lines of cars waiting to fill up with gas, with gasoline. This powerful oil producer now had to bring down its exports to countries like Turkey and India because they're not any longer able to do that because of the Ukrainians being so effective, hitting their oil refineries, etc. So yeah, I mean, it all shows you, Brian, that Russia is not in a good place today, and therefore it is also in their interest to really engage with the president's initiative to end this terrible war.
Remember when Turkey had the Russian planes got into Turkey's airspace, they took them out, and that they never had a problem with Russia again. That's pretty much the only language they understand. When the president sits down with the Turkish leader today, who continues to buy Russian oil and says they don't have a horse in this race, they're friends with both, what do you hope the president tells Erdogan in the Oval Office today?
Well, I don't need to tell President Trump what he should tell others, because I know he is doing the right thing.
What do you hope he does?
He spoke yesterday.
What do you hope?
Well, he spoke yesterday with the Hungarian Prime Minister. And this was also about the fact that Hungarians keep on buying oil from the Russians and therefore financing and funneling money to the Russian war economy. And we know that Russia is spending about 40% of its budget on its defense and basically its offensive war now in Ukraine. So I have total trust in President Trump navigating this, including this unnecessary still buying by many countries of oil from Russia. And the European President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is also in close contact with the White House, with Scott Bessent, very proactive, working on ways to basically cut off money from the Russian war economy even further, together, collectively.
Are the weapons getting, is this still the problem? Are the weapons getting to Ukraine in time? Are the U.S. weapons going to the proper channels to get to the battlefield? Final thought, Mr. Secretary?
Absolutely. And this is what happened mid-July when President Trump called me and he said, hey, Mark, we will open the floodgates again of U.S. weapons, both lethal and non-lethal, into Ukraine. But guess what? Allies will pay for it. And I said, you are totally right. Already $2 billion have been committed in packages for Ukraine. The other packages are now pending. So you will see a constant flow of American weapons into Ukraine, paid for by allies. And I think in conjunction with the sanctions, in conjunction with the 5% target, what we will overall spend as NATO on our collective defense, this big foreign policy success of President Trump at the The Hague summit of NATO in June, this collectively puts the pressure on Russia to get serious and stop doing this. They have now, Brian, one final thought. They are now losing in 1 month the amount of people the Soviets lost in 10 years in Afghanistan. Can you imagine? 10 years Afghanistan, the same amount as now 1 month in Ukraine. This is getting crazy.
It is. And I'm going to walk away thinking at the end of this week, President said Ukraine can win and get their land back. And now he's seeing indicators that could actually be the case. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much. I know a lot of pressure on your shoulders today. Good luck with your meetings.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
You got it. I hope so.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.